Well, what a great pleasure it is to introduce our last keynote of the day today. Grover Norquist is president of Americans for Tax Reform, but he is a friend to freedom fighters all over the world. He has done so much in his own country for the cause, but he's done a lot internationally, and he's always made himself available for us in Canada, whatever we're working at, and we're really, really pleased to have him join us here today. So I want to talk to Grover about coalition building. I want to talk about his Wednesday meetings, the things he does that have the movement work together. But I can't resist at least a few questions on events of this week, which are the elections. So I'm going to start off first, Grover, asking you for your quick take on the election and what does it mean for the conservative movement in the United States and to some extent the world. What's that? What, Grover? You're muted. Sorry.
Yes, thanks.
There you go. I know it was a good point.
Earlier and I forgot to unmute. Apologize. One of the best ways to understand how you're doing is to look at how the left is reacting to a particular issue or election. And the left in America is beside itself. They think that Biden is going to end up as the president, and that the Republicans will hold the Senate so that they can't stack the court, the Supreme Court, they can't add new states, they can't raise taxes, they can't pass new laws, they can't change election law and make sure that whatever fraud happens in one state could happen in all 50 states. And they feel powerless because they believe they were going to win a big number in the Senate. They believe they would win more seats in the House. They have lost seats in the House. They were only 17 House seats out of 435 below the Republicans. Now we're just up at almost even, and the Republicans will hold the Senate. At the state level, there was only one change in governors. The Republicans picked up Montana and now run the governorship and the legislature. Only two state legislative bodies changed. The two Democrat House and Senate in New Hampshire were taken by Republicans. The Democrats spent $88 million to take the House in Texas, the House in Michigan, the Senate in Wisconsin. They were going to take all of these things and then control redistricting and gerrymander the Republicans out of any chance of becoming and being the majority party in Congress. Now the Republicans hold all of the cards on redistricting that they did before and will go into the next decade. In the left's view, with them almost unable to maintain any majority in the House of Representatives because of their failure in this election. So you wonder, it appears Biden won. Why is the left pulling out their hair? They see themselves out of the House for a decade, out of the Senate for a decade. And 2 years from now, if Biden is president, just as 2 years into the Clinton administration, he tried to raise taxes, he tried to raise spending, he tried to do all this big spending stuff. They lost the House and the Senate in 1994. So for the next 6 years, Clinton had the presidency, but no Congress. Then in Obama, they won in 2008. 2 years later, 2010, the Republicans took the House, almost took the Senate back, certainly took their majority way down, and we swept the House, the state legislative and governor seats. There are 36 governors up for election in 2 years. In a good Republican year, we are going to run the table on many of those states. So we're in a very good position, and the measures that were on the ballot, sometimes in the United States, they put initiatives or referenda on the ballot, people get to vote on them. California, liberal, blue, Democrat California, identity politics California, voted overwhelmingly to maintain the ban on racial preferences in hiring and education. So no affirmative action racial quotas in California. They passed that a decade or more ago, and they just re-upped that commitment, voting down one of the centerpieces of the modern National Democratic Party nationwide in California. That is the sign to the Supreme Court, which has long understood that racial discrimination and quotas are just unconstitutional. They will, I believe, take that as the go-ahead to so rule, and the left can't go, wait a minute, you're cheating. because their own major state said, that's right, we're done with that level of racism. California also voted down an effort to raise business taxes that the left had put forward. They voted down in Illinois, going from a flat rate income tax to a graduated progressive income tax. Liberal, Democrat, blue, Illinois said no, 55-45, to going away from a single rate tax to a graduated progressive tax. These are huge, damaging losses to the left. And it's, the Democrats tried to ban independent contractors, so everybody would have to have a boss so you could be unionized. That was wiped out by an initiative in California. So a lot of what the left was trying to say, everybody agrees with us on X, boom, big slap on the face. Not by candidates. You could always argue maybe the candidate won because he had more money or he was better looking or there was some other issue. Up and down, yes or no on racial quotas. Up or down, yes or no on labor law blocking independent contractors. Yes or no on graduated progressive income taxes. A huge win for the center-right movement. And not only, it's like when you play golf and you have a good shot, you come right next, your next shot, you know you're going to get in the hole. We placed ourselves very well for the next election in 2 years to be able to run the table.
Well, I appreciate you outlining that, because I think a lot of people just look at the presidential side and maybe a bit down about what the outcome was, but it looks like there's a lot of other areas that people don't necessarily see in the headlines. So I appreciate
we already own the courts, thanks to Trump,
right,
and all of his work, along with 6-3 people who believe the Constitution should be read, taken seriously, and defended, not reinterpreted with every whim that they have, and 200 more good judges, basically balanced at the lower courts, but the Supreme Court gets to make the ultimate decision there. It's a huge step forward. And if Trump had done nothing else with his presidency, he would be an historic figure. So if he ends up walking out not as president in January, his legacy is going to be lasting and move the country to the Reagan right.
So, Grover, I want to ask the question about the nature of conservatism and ask if you're seeing it changing in the U.S. and globally, in your view, since the Reagan and Thatcher era that was very much grounded in the Austrian thinkers, free enterprise, free markets. Because I think it's fair to say that, you know, the populism that we see from Trump, but also if you look at Boris Johnson's One Nation, Marco Rubio in your country talking about common good capitalism, the reform conservatism movement, there seems to be, amongst a lot of conservative thinkers and movement activists, maybe a larger role for government than what traditionally has been associated with sort of that Reagan-Thatcher era and vision. Wonder what your thought. I mean, feel free to disagree with me. I'm asking the question. I mean, and just quickly, I should say too, like in our own country, our new conservative leader, Aaron O'Toole, is certainly making aggressive overtures toward union members in ways that we haven't seen with the Conservative Party here traditionally either. So wondering what your thoughts and observations are, both in the States and what you're seeing globally.
Step one, reaching out to union members or minorities or immigrants or any group that hasn't traditionally been in your party is what a party that wants to expand should do. Now, the question is, do you offer to steal money from taxpayers and give it to their leaders to get their votes? Wrong. Okay, that's bad, criminal, wrong, corrupt. But reaching out is always good. So we should never get scared because somebody's reaching out to union members. They should reach out to union members and tell them why cutting the corporate income tax is a good idea and why less regulation is a good idea. Ditto with immigrants and all other groups that are sort of coming into the mainstream in the United States or someplace else. Secondly, you will always have Republican intellectuals, self-appointed intellectuals, trying to come up with something other than Adam Smith, Jefferson, Washington, and the Constitution because they feel so... They want to be thought of as great thinkers. And frankly, all the good ideas have already been thought up, okay? Freedom is it. There isn't anything else. And they keep, no, I could improve on a free society by shooting these three people or bludgeoning these other people into something nice. Not a lot of that, but just some, or stealing somebody's money and giving it to somebody else like me to do good things with. No, but there always are these guys. And they want to be thought of as intellectuals. The whole Never Trumper is a collection of these people who think they have brilliant ideas to restructure society. Not French Revolution, not AOC, but still they've got these ideas about how they're going to use the power of the government to make things better. There's a guy with a baseball bat who wants to do an appendectomy. Baseball bats don't work for appendectomies, and governments don't work to improve people's standards of living other than getting out of the way. Once you've done property rights and keeping the Canadians on their side of the border for national defense, you've really done as much as the government needs to do. The rest is getting out of the way. So you'll always hear the intellectuals, right? Every 2-4 years they pop up. How about if I design the world? No, go away. And we don't have to hit them. They just drift away because they're silly people and self-important. And they can go write for little journals with 10,000 people who read each other's stuff. So they don't really hurt anyone. They're playing with rubber knives, not with the real thing. But is there some restructuring of the modern conservative movement in the United States? And I'll just speak to what I know here, because the British put "yous" in the middle of all of their words. It's confusing. So here in the United States, our coalition is going to hold together. And the reason is that you can see it around the table, and it hasn't changed with Trump, okay? Who's at the table in the modern Republican Party and the modern conservative, libertarian, center-right movement? Everybody's there because on their vote-moving issue, they wish to be left alone. So you have homeschoolers. 3 million children in the United States, 2 million children in the United States are homeschooled. They want to be left alone to be homeschooled. 10% of the population goes to private schools. They want the government and the public schools to leave them alone. That's the biggest investment they've made in their children's lives, is to pay the money to go to private school or the time and effort to homeschool. Leave us alone. In the United States, half the people in the country own guns in their homes. 20 million Americans, that's a low number, it's a year old. 20 million Americans have a concealed carry permit, so they can carry a gun concealed anywhere they want to go in their own state or in other states with reciprocity. There's 16 million AR-15s, which is the rifles they call assault weapons. They simply want to be left alone to protect their own families and protect their Second Amendment rights. They don't knock on your door and tell you to be a hunter on Saturday morning. They're not missionaries. They just want to be left alone. Small businessmen and women, 11 million independent contractors, people who drive for Uber or Lyft or work on their own, Amway distributors. They have no boss. They're self-employed. They want to be left alone. They don't want to have to join a union. They don't have to pay dues. They don't have to be told what their hours are. Uber drivers get to make up their own hours. Anytime you drive, anytime you want, up to you. Then you have all the various communities of faith for whom the most important thing is being left alone to practice their faith and transmit it to their children. Now, they may have all sorts of odd ideas about how everybody else should run their lives, but they vote on leave me alone. Well, the big news this year was the Amish for the first time, the Mennonites, the Amish, the Anabaptists who live in Pennsylvania out into Ohio, evidently didn't used to vote very much, and they all came out for Trump. What? They just want to be left alone. Plus, they have big farms in Pennsylvania under which there's much fracking and oil, so that may be a factor too. So what you have is a coalition, and I recommend it in any center-right country. I think it's the stable coalition, because nobody wants anything at anyone else's expense. You want to be left alone with your Second Amendment gun rights. You want to be left alone to homeschool. You want to be left alone to go to church, synagogue, mosque. I want to be left alone to count my money and run a business. We don't mess with each other. We may go, that's an odd way to spend your time. I don't go to church all day. I don't fondle my guns all day. But you don't interrupt anything I'm doing. So we can get along. And all you have to have is the candidate and the party in the middle, and the candidate says, I'll leave your kids alone, your education alone, your homeschooling alone, your guns alone, your faith alone, your business alone, your property rights alone, your 401k, your life savings. I'll leave you all alone. And then you find new groups. This year we found vapors, people who have quit smoking and they vape. The Democrats want to ban vaping because they like to ban things and push people around because they're jerks. But there are 13 million of these people who vape, and they are big fans of Trump, who promised not to annoy adult vapors in the United States. So there are always these new groups. 100 million Americans have a 401k or an individual retirement account where you actually save money with shares of stock, and your company may do it for you or you do it for yourself. But 100 million Americans have a savings plan like that, which means every time the stock market goes up, 100 million people get a monthly notice, or you can go online and check 5 times a day if you want, the exact value of your life savings, 100 million. So when Biden says, I'm going to raise taxes on businesses and make your 401k smaller, it's not a handful of business guys or CEOs who get upset. It's 100 million people. Right. And I was trying to get Trump to say 100 million. He said many. That's good. But 100 million would have been clearer. about how many people had this at stake. So when you're building a coalition, you want one that's not in conflict. The Democrat coalition is a bunch of guys who sit around a table and they all want to steal money from taxpayers and give it to themselves. What that kind of means that if you have the trial lawyers and the labor unions and the government workers and the people on welfare and the people who manage welfare and make sure none of the people on welfare get jobs and become Republicans, and then you have all the coercive utopians who want to tell everybody what kind of light bulbs to have, and on the Sabbath you have to separate the green glass from the brown glass for the recycling priests, and those are the guys who invented the toilets that don't flush completely. So all around the table, all they want to do is poke other people and take their money. And the problem is the guys sitting next to it, they're not friends, they're competing parasites. Because anything you're eating, I don't get to eat. And when the more tax money comes in, we all grab for it. And if there's not enough, we start fighting among ourselves. So they have to bloat the government really large in order to have enough people happy. Our job is to say no new taxes, bring taxes down, make less money available to hire Democratic precinct workers and no-show jobs. And then they're just fewer of the other team. And then they sneak off and go get jobs and become real people and join our team, become part of our coalition. So you make fewer of them by not leaving. If you want to avoid cockroaches, you don't leave food out under the sink. And if you want to avoid people dependent on government who vote for more government, stop handing out money and leaving it on the table for them to pick up. You say, no, you want to get money, go get a job. Oh, that's a new rule. Yeah, that's a new rule. And then you live with that. So the coalition in the United States holds together. Trump did not disrupt this. He gave us judges that made everybody at the table happy. Freedom of religion, property rights, equality before the law. Everybody loved his judges. He cut taxes, which meant everybody had more of their own earnings to do whatever they wanted to. Buy more guns, give more money to church, build buildings, whatever you want, up to you, okay? And so these are the decisions, deregulation, let more people do more things and have more choices and so on. The two areas where he was a little different from Reagan was he was more hostile to free speech, to free trade, talking about using tariffs as a way to get China to behave, but he just got in a trade war and never got the part about getting the trade barriers down. That didn't happen. And then the other one is immigration, where he's a little more hostile to that American farmers need workers. American businesses need workers. Even the president said this about a year ago, just before COVID hit. He said, we're running out of workers in the United States, which was true. We were going to have to rethink his immigration policies, and he was too. I mean, they were all set to do that. COVID hit, gave you a recession, no longer a problem. We don't have enough workers because we had lots of unemployed people. But again, we just hit 6.9% unemployment, which is below by a whole point what our friend Obama had when he ran for re-election for president. So even with COVID, we were better than Obama for unemployment. And so that is moving along fine. We were talking earlier about the way we maintain the center-right coalition in the United States. In D.C., in Washington, D.C., we have a meeting with about 160 people. Right now it's online on Microsoft Teams. It used to be in person. It will be again. And leaders of all sorts of different groups, people from the House, the Senate, the White House, the various departments, think tanks, activist groups, gay Republicans, traditional values Republicans, people who are, for their various reasons, are in the center-right coalition. They vote with Republicans. They disagree on certain things. But everybody, and what we do is we meet for an hour and a half. And there are 40 state versions of this meeting and about 25 internationally. But the 40 in the States, I go to all those meetings online now. So my day is full of going to New Hampshire in the morning and Indiana in the afternoon and seeing all the smart people and the various groups and always thinking, who else should be in the room? Who else should be in the room? How do we get party people and think tank people and college Republican student groups in, business groups in? The business community, properly understood, should be part of the coalition. They need to understand to be brought in. And when the guys who are all the Republicans who work for the high-tech companies, I want them in the room so that we're talking to the high-tech companies about what they want and what we want and how we work together to get a freer and more open society. And so that meeting that we put together, we've been running since 1993, runs on a couple of quick rules. One is you talk for 3 minutes, no more. 2, you hand out paper so that you never have to feel you left anything unsaid. Oh, no, I've got so much to say. Fine, write it down. Oh, I couldn't write it down. Well, if you can't write it down, you sure as heck can't talk it because you don't even have your thoughts put together. Bring a piece of paper, hand it out, talk for 3 minutes. 2, you talk about what you're doing, not what your ridiculous hopes and aspirations are, not why you're mad at the president because he didn't do what you wanted, not that the world has gone to Hades since the Reformation. Pick something that you're doing that's forward-looking and that you're in charge of. Now, if you're trying to get the president to give a speech on your topic, that's a plan. Tell us about that. But the president ought to give a speech that said this is not a discussion point. You're wasting everybody's time. So you talk about the future, what you're doing. You talk for 3 minutes, no arguing. Somebody disagrees because they can talk to you later, or they can present next week on what they're doing, which may be slightly different than what you're doing. But no arguments, no just back and forth. And with that, one, everybody understands what everybody else in the movement's doing. Even if they work on an issue, there's a guy who spent several years legalizing hemp, the rope that was banned when marijuana was banned because the plants look like marijuana. Okay, it's not marijuana, but it looks like it. And if you're the police, you might as well make hemp illegal because it's too much work to try and decide whether it's hemp or marijuana. That's now been legalized in the United States, and we're moving forward. But he would come in and talk about what he was doing and the votes he was getting and who he was having work on this and what states were doing it. And let's say you didn't care about hemp being legalized, but you needed to know that congressmen, senators, people in the press, activists are using up bandwidth on that issue and that's going on. And sometimes you'll want to have a vote on something and they're voting on hemp. Get what everybody else is doing. You have to have 360-degree vision to know what everybody else in the movement's doing. And then you find lots of ways to work together because you're not in conflict on these things. How can you work together? How can you make this move forward? So, and also, you learn to talk to the whole movement at once. It's very easy for the pro-life people to talk to pro-lifers in such a way that they would scare everybody else, or at least confuse them. Or the gun people would talk in ways that people go, I don't know about that, I'm confused. What? Because they talk in jargon to each other. So you need to learn to talk in a way that everybody in there, people who get your issue and people who don't understand your issue yet, get what you're saying. I always think, what if a reporter from the Washington Post or the New York Times was in the room? And I would say that since 1993, there has never been anything said at one of our Coalition Wednesday meetings that if the Washington Post was there and taping it, we'd be embarrassed or damaged by. Because people just get that you don't use inflammatory rhetoric. I mean, even if you're kidding or joking or exaggerating for effect, you don't do it. Right. Because you want to communicate with people without being off-putting to anybody. There's no advantage to that. The guy who is with you 110% isn't with you anymore if you exaggerate your point, or if you're insulting to somebody else, or you just, let's throw him out the window. All that does is get you in trouble, and teaching a whole generation of conservative activists how to talk in a way that no matter who's in the room, they would move towards you rather than away from you. Towards you and maybe listen again later.
Grover, I want to emphasize this one point. When people come to these meetings, and I've been to a number of them, they're tremendous. You're not directing or coordinating the activities of anyone. And I want this audience to understand that. It's people independently just talking about what they're working on, even though it may not be your issue. I know I'm repeating a bit of what you say here, but I just want to emphasize these points. And that what I've noticed when I've attended them or when I've spoke at them, the magic often happens after. So I spoke at the Wednesday meeting, a couple weeks ago. I talked mostly about healthcare reform on a project I'm working with another group. And immediately I got 3 emails after. It was tremendous. People wanting to collaborate because, they're interested in what's going on in Canada with healthcare and contrasting it with the debate in the US. And, maybe, obviously some collaboration came from that, but we entered that agreement voluntarily. No one was coercing us or you weren't telling us, you've got to work together on this. And so I want you to just maybe just zero in on that point, because I really want everyone to understand that that's the success that I've observed from us in Canada when I've come down and seen those meetings. The magic sort of happens after, but at least you get a big picture of all of the kinds of things that people are working on. And from there, you can enter into those kind of arrangements to move whatever issue it is forward.
People get invited by me or with my permission just to make sure that somebody's coming who actually does things and who's not combative and would be annoying to people, okay? Some people might come to present once, but usually it's about 400 people on the list and 160 people come on any given day. I mean, some people come, we meet weekly. So you could come every 2 weeks and you're there a lot, but it's 160 people sort of steady, but maybe 400 people on the list. And just what you said, the reason I set up this meeting different from other meetings that happen in DC was, there's this great anecdote about a guy who comes into a sculptor's workshop and he sees this beautiful sculpture of Zeus, the Greek king of the gods. And he says, that's so wonderful. How did you possibly make that marble statue of Zeus? And the sculptor said, well, I started with a big block of marble and I removed all of the bits that don't look like Zeus. And that's how I designed the meeting. I made a list of all the things that I thought killed other meetings I'd been in. Somebody want to talk for 50, if 4 people talk for 15 minutes in an hour-long meeting, and 1 or 2 of those issues is of not much interest to you, that's a dead meeting. You're not going back. And nobody's worth talking to for 15 minutes on that subject to everybody. Talk for 3, and the guy who wants to talk to you for hours on that subject, you call each other on the phone and set up your own meeting or have lunch after the meeting because you can go through stuff. But you want people to talk for 3 minutes briefly. And again, you're quite right. People put themselves on the agenda. As I go through life in a week, I hear about somebody doing something cool. I said, that's great. Could you present on it? Well, not this week. We'll present the next month. Okay. So we're constantly dragging people, suggesting that people come in and present on what they're doing. But there used to be a meeting in this town where the guy who did it would turn to somebody who made a presentation and go, you're wrong. What? Ah, you're wrong. That doesn't happen at the meeting. I don't run the meeting. People put themselves on the agenda. I'm always looking for new people to come and talk and be on the agenda. Or, you're doing this really cool thing. Could you tell us about it and share a piece of paper on it? But when you're the presenter, it's your meeting for 3 minutes in your handout. You own that meeting. Nobody tells you what to do. And nobody, if somebody has an idea, nobody has to join them on it.
Grover, I want to ask this question too, because a lot of people say, oh, that works in the United States, but it won't work in country X, Y, or Z. And that's obviously bunk. I think there's 22 plus of these coalition leader meetings going on in other parts of the world. What have you heard? What stories have you heard? What experiences have you gotten back in terms of these meetings going on in other countries around the world?
The Swedish meeting, the Japanese meeting was the first, and it's still going. It was sort of a part of the Liberal Democratic Party that thought of themselves, they wanted to be the Newt Gingrich of Japan. And so they built out from there, the business groups as well as party people. Very good structure. In Denmark, they've got a great meeting. I mean, it's going very, very well. They just keep bringing in people. And again, enough different people come in and talk during an hour. You just learn so much that you didn't know was going on, that you say, I'm going to come back to this meeting to know what everybody's doing. They're smart people. I want to play with somebody who's doing this project or doing that kind of a project. In Chile, I often get the argument from people, oh, we don't have groups like that in our country. And I got that from Dario Paya, the state senator from Chile, conservative guy. And he said, oh, we don't have groups like that. And he wanted me to come down and do some training for his party activists. I said, I'll come, but I want to stay Monday. And I want to put everybody who runs some sort of meeting that you know about together. And let's have them all introduce themselves and say what they're doing for 3 minutes. And then from there, decide if they want to meet again. They had more than 30 groups. He's telling me that we don't have groups like that. But when they started looking, some of them were regional, and they all went around the table and they said, oh my goodness, I didn't know you guys were out there. We can work together. And they set up a monthly meeting, which has flourished. I guess I haven't dealt with a country that in looking couldn't find enough leaders and activists and talent And donors love to go to meetings like this thing because then they get to see 5, 6, 10, 20 groups do stuff about who should they give money to and what kind of things they should support. Political leaders, state legislators, federal, national elected officials come and present on their bills because they want support. And in any business group, there's somebody there who's actually principled center-right person. Maybe the whole Chamber of Commerce of Florida isn't good, but there are a couple of invite them. Invitations are for people, not structures. There's not a Microsoft seat. There's a seat for Suhail Khan, conservative, longtime Republican activist who works for Microsoft, and he's always welcome. And he can bring somebody else if Microsoft is doing something good that they want everybody to know about, or getting attacked and could use some help. But the invitations are for people, not structures, because inside any business group, there's somebody who's no stinking good. Right. And you can't have them told, oh, you've got the token to go to no, you don't. The meeting is for somebody that we know and trust and who does have some sense of a broad-based coalition and wants to be part of it. They may identify other people inside that group that could come play later, but you don't invite somebody willy-nilly because there's not a position for the guy from AT&T or even the Republican Party of Kansas. You want to make sure it's a coalition-friendly person.
Right. Grover, I want to respect your time, but we do have quite a few questions coming in. So sure. Scott's been with me, you know Scott, and he's been summarizing a few of the questions. So I think he'll put a couple to you, and
okay.
And we'll see what we can do. Go ahead.
Sure. Grover, the first question we got here is, what's the most creative or innovative tactic for moving an issue forward that your group or another group in the U.S. has done recently?
Well, one that I like is the Taxpayer Protection Pledge that we put forward in 1985 to help pass the tax reform bill. And it was a pledge that somebody wrote, I pledge to the American people that I will oppose and vote against any tax increase. 2 witnesses, dated, signed. And we did that in order to convince the Democrats that we would never vote for a tax reform bill in '86 if it was secretly a tax increase. You know, they go in and in the smoke-filled room, they come out and tax reform turns into a tax increase. We had 100 congressmen, 20 senators, and 1 president who said, we're out if this turns into a tax hike. It never did. It was actually a tax cut. And then that became something people used in elections to win primaries, to show that they were serious. And when Bush 41 signed his pledge, he got elected because he beat Dole, who wouldn't sign the pledge, in New Hampshire. That was his run to the presidency. Got elected because of the pledge, won the primary because of the pledge, won the general because of the pledge, read my lips. Then he broke the pledge, and he lost the next election. He won the Cold War. You know, he was an otherwise fairly successful president, except he broke the pledge. And that's when we got 95+% of all the Republicans signing the pledge, because we turned it into something that every voter knows you wouldn't sign the pledge unless you really meant it, because you all watched a president slit his throat by breaking the pledge. So you're not going to break the pledge. So I can trust you because I know that you watched the country throw out a guy who broke the pledge. You wouldn't want that to happen to you, so you wouldn't sign if you didn't mean it. And we stopped $2 trillion in tax increases from Obama, because the Republicans held against all the pressure in the world. So something that highlights an issue and makes it credible that someone's really on your team, when so much of politics is somebody, you know, I really don't want to raise taxes now. Now, you know, the half promise, people are tired of that. So that's one that really has worked. The other is passing a law in one state. We got 50 or 57 of them, depending on who you believe. But one state, and then you move it laterally from state to state. And when you have enough of them, then you go to Washington and say, let's take this idea of term limits or right to try on new drugs that's passed in 40 states. Then you go to Washington. I like that a lot as a example of criminal justice reform, state by state by state, and then to Washington, when you built credibility.
Anything else, Scott?
Yeah, I got one more here for you. What, in your opinion, will be the biggest impact for Canadians under President Biden?
He will try and spend more money, but he won't have the votes in the Senate. He will try and raise taxes, but he won't have the votes in the Senate. He will therefore fly around and try and make grand pronouncements about global warming and excuse me, sorry, taxes on energy that we won't let him put in. But he'll talk about all these international do-gooder agreements. Canadians like that, or at least Trudeau-type Canadians like that. And Biden considers that interesting. But unless it's a signed treaty, it's not really a thing. So I think you'll see him try and go, oh, Trump wasn't playing well with the other children because he made NATO actually put some money in. And therefore, watch him maybe fall back on that. I'm not sure he'll put the pressure on that Trump did to get the European countries to agree to actually spend 2% of GDP when we're spending 3 or 4. I think I don't know where he's going to be on tariffs because the unions love the tariffs. So I don't know that he backs down on walks away from some of the tariffs. I'm not a big tariff person. They're fine to threaten people with, but when you actually have to hit them with the tariff, all tariff wars are wars of choice, and all tariffs are paid by the consumers in the country that levies the tariff. So all casualties in a trade war are hit by friendly fire. The Canadians don't, the Chinese don't damage you. The U.S. government damages you as a consumer when they throw up a tariff. The Chinese react by screwing the Chinese people with tariffs. So it's a very odd, I can punish my people more than you can punish your people. You should surrender. It didn't seem to work.
Fantastic description of trade wars. Thank you for that. I wish we were articulating it more like that in this country. Grover, we're going to cut it off there. I want to thank you so much. You were fantastic today and feeling a lot more optimistic about developments in the United States, obviously, and the things that we have to look forward to here. So we're going to keep working on coalition building, on networking, and all the things that you've talked about today and build the movement stronger in this country. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for your leadership in the movement on these important issues.
And every time you guys move ahead in Canada, it always makes news in the United States and helps buttress the idea that the Republican Party is not alone in trying to promote liberty.
Right. Well, thank you very much.